Good morning. Welcome to Sunday morning. I apologize for the slight delay. I was noodling around with the Facebook feed, which was being a little hinky this morning. But good morning. Happy to see you. Runners Run iPhone. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. I'm assuming that's not your real name. Anyway, greetings to the people I can see on Zoom, and greetings to the folks who I cannot see on Facebook and YouTube. Sorry, again, sorry for the late getting started. Facebook was a little hinky this morning. Today, we are continuing our walk through the elements of compassion. Those being willingness, empathy, kindness, non-judgment, and altruism. And so far, we have covered empathy, kindness, and non-judgment. And today we are going to talk about active listening. Listening is the most simple and direct act of compassion. As often as not, what most people need when they're suffering is to be heard and seen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How to hear and see people from a mindfulness perspective. But first, let's meditate. So I invite you to find a comfortable meditation posture that works for you, in which you can be comfortable but alert. If you're sitting with your back, sit with your back straight, not like slumped. It's actually easier for your body to relax when your back is straight. I've been contacted by people who have back issues and asked about meditating lying down, and that's fine. There are meditation postures are sitting, standing, walking, and laying down. If you're going to lay down, the suggestion is you keep your forearm, your arm at a 90-degree angle on the floor, so that if you fall asleep, your hand comes down and you'll wake up. So, finding a meditation posture that works for you. And if you had like a little string at the crown of your head and you pulled it up just slightly and tuck in your chin, that straightens the top vertebrae in your neck, and do so without straining or stressing the muscles in your neck or shoulders. And gently close your eyes. And let's start by noticing what it's like to be in this body in this moment. How does your body feel? What do you notice about the ambient temperature and how that feels on your body, on your hands or your feet or your face? We're just coming into embodiment of this moment. The body is always in the present moment. The mind may wander around. And I invite you to notice the sensations of your feet or your legs on the floor where the contact is. Notice the sensations of your hands in your lap, how that feels on your hands, how that feels on your legs. Just noticing. And noticing the sensations of your bottom in the chair or on the cushion. What that physical pressure feels like as you just let your body sink into gravity. And I invite you to take a few slow, deep breaths into the belly. And notice the sensations of the body breathing out as you breathe deep. Maybe pause for just a second at the top of the in breath. Noticing your body transitioning to an out breath and feeling that all the way down as your chest and your belly contract. And pausing at the bottom of the exhale. Just for a second. And notice your body transitioning to an in breath. And as you breathe out, just beginning the process of relaxing and softening. Letting your breathing return to normal. And as you breathe out, relaxing the muscles in your face and the muscles around your eyes. Receiving the in breath, like receiving nourishment. And as you breathe out, just releasing any tension or holding or stress that you're noticing in your body. On the out breath, releasing your shoulders and your neck. relaxing your belly. We hold our bellies in much of the time, but now we just let it hang and relax. Noticing and letting the belly expand on the in-breath. And contract on the out-breath. Now letting your attention, just bringing your attention and focus to the sensations of the body breathing. Some people focus on the sensations of the air moving in and out of the nose. Slightly cooler on the in-breath, slightly warmer on the out-breath. Some people focus on the sensations of the chest or the belly moving up and down, expanding and contracting. You can focus on the overall sensations of the body breathing in and out, or any combination, or whatever works for you. Whatever is easiest, most accessible, most compelling. Just resting your focus and your attention on the sensations of the in-breath all the way to the top, and riding the out-breath all the way to the bottom. The rhythm of the body, breathing in and out. When your mind wanders off into thought, as it will, just notice without getting involved in the narrative or the storyline. Just notice thinking as a phenomenon and bring your attention back to the breath as often as you need to. You maybe have to do that 10 times, maybe 100, maybe 6. It's all good. Just when you notice you've wandered off, the mind has wandered off, just come back to the simplicity of breathing in and out in this moment. thoughts arise. Thoughts arise. Feelings arise. It's all good. They come, they go. Just notice. And return to the breath. Gently, compassionately, like a soft place to land. And as this meditation comes to a close, I invite you to be with whatever benefit you receive from this practice, to enable you to walk through the world with kindness and compassion and an open heart. And may it be that the benefits of this practice enable us to spread kindness and compassion into our households, into our neighborhoods, to the people we meet, to the people we know, to the people we don't know, to the people we just encounter, to view the world through the eyes of kindness and compassion. And a wish for the welfare and well-being of all. May the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. Thank you for your practice. As usual, I've put the usual information in the Zoom chat, and I've also included it in the comment section on YouTube and Facebook. Information on how to find these sessions every week, my website, my contact information, how to get in touch with me. Excuse me. And a link to a donation if you feel so moved, which is not requested nor required. It's just there. So we're continuing our deep dive into the nature of compassion with a discussion of the elements of compassion, which include willingness, empathy, kindness, non-judgment, active listening, and altruism. And we have discussed empathy, kindness, and non-judgment in the last few weeks. And today we're going to talk about active listening, which to me is the simplest, most direct act of compassion. And I thought I would start with a quote from, I can't guarantee I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Suringama Sutra. To Avalokitesvara, the great compassion bodhisattva. For those who don't know, bodhisattva is the rough, very rough equivalent of a saint in the Buddhist world. It says, "We invoke your name, Avalokitesvara. We aspire to learn your way of listening in order to help to relieve the suffering of the world. You know how to listen in order to understand. We invoke your name in order to practice listening with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will sit and listen without prejudice. We will sit and listen without reacting. We will sit and listen attentively, that we will be able to hear what the other person is saying and also what is left unsaid. We know that just by listening deeply, we already alleviate a great deal of pain and suffering in the other person. Listening, active listening, is an art, and we can practice it. And mindfulness helps because we get to notice when we have strayed off from the person in front of us into our own thoughts, into our own impressions, into rehearsing what we might say next. Active listening lays the foundation for understanding, validation, and emotional support, which are essential elements of compassion. And it can be something as simple as, I hear you. Or I know that sounds really hard. Letting somebody know that they're heard is an extremely healing thing to be able to do. It opens the door to a deeper conversation. And no, we're not going to be someone's therapists. And we often can't solve their problem or help them solve their problem, but we can help people by listening actively. We can help people feel validated and less alone, which in itself is a path to healing. There's value in feeling heard and seen, and we all know that. When my father was sick and dying in 1991, various people showed up with various intentions to help, and I appreciated all of it. But the most helpful people were the ones who just listened to what my experience was of that. And of course, there are all the platitudes that people like to say when someone is dying or has died. And I wrote a column once when I was in my therapist newsletter about the 10 things to not say that people say all the time in situations like this. But as often as not, there's nothing to say other than, I hear you. So active listening begins with focused awareness. How many times have you been on the phone talking to somebody, raise your hand, and you've heard them clacking away at the keyboard while you're in the conversation? How many of you don't find that a little off-putting? Because we know that person's not paying attention. They're trying to pay attention and they're multitasking. This is something we don't do as multitasking. We avoid distractions. We take the time. If it's a Zoom conversation or a Facebook conversation, we're not surfing Facebook while talking to someone on the phone or on FaceTime. We bring mindfulness and our full presence to that conversation so that we can actually be there listening. And we suspend judgment. Active listening is non-judgmental. We don't have to understand the other person's experience. We don't even have to agree with the other person's experience. Their suffering may sound trivial to us, but it's not trivial to them. And just the recognition that something is hard for this person can be enough to liberate ourselves and them from the kind of dismissiveness that is often encountered when people don't understand. When I was a therapist, this is one of the things I considered as the common cold of couples therapy. This person over here has an issue. This person over here doesn't understand why that's an issue, and therefore just dismisses it, which leaves this person over here feeling invalidated and isolated. And I would do this exercise where one person would talk and the other person would repeat it back, say, if I heard you correctly. They usually got it wrong the first time. But it's enough to just suspend judgment and recognize this person is in pain. And I'm present for that. Presence is an act of compassion. Listening is an act of compassion. And as I said, we don't have to understand it. We just have to understand, or it's better to understand the nature of dukkha, and this is what that looks like. This person is suffering. This is what that looks like. And it helps to reflect and clarify what you're hearing. Just to say, I hear you. One of the hardest things for me to learn studying to be a therapist is just that. Don't say anything. Because we often feel compelled to lean into a conversation. But it's okay to just say, I hear you, or to reflect back, repeat back what you've heard. As often as not, what we hear is different from what the other person is saying, which is why I always start that part of the conversation with, if I heard you correctly, because that's by no means guaranteed. And to do it in such a way that we're not asking for anything, I'd like to hear more about that. If I heard you correctly, I'm wondering if I got that right. Not pressuring people to say whatever. Just the difference between say more about that and I'd like to hear more about that. And active listening includes empathy, and we've talked about empathy. I covered empathy in our last week. The capacity to feel what another person is feeling. My favorite novel is To Kill a Mockingbird. I have two favorite novels, To Kill a Mockingbird and Reign of Gold. And in To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch, who in To Kill a Mockingbird is the model of the great father, says you don't really understand a person's point of view until you get in his shoes and walk around in them. It's the capacity to feel what another person is feeling or some approximation of it. And we do that by not turning away from our own suffering and pain. And it's the ability to use our pain, our painful experiences, as a lens through which we can genuinely witness other people's suffering. When I was a therapist, I specialized in working with adult survivors of child abuse. Did a lot of work with adult survivors of sexual abuse. The thing about child abuse and sexual abuse is it happens in private and there are no witnesses. And people are often dismissed when they tell their families about it, which just doubles down on the pain. We get to be the witness. We all need a witness. And again, I'm emphasizing we are not people's therapists. Some of us might be therapists, but this is not what this is about. To be able to sit and listen with an open heart and not be afraid of whatever might be triggered in us, whatever might reflect back our own pain, but to use that as a way of understanding the experience of the person in front of them. And that alone is an act of compassion and healing. And active listening also includes feedback. Not telling people what to do. How many people here like being told what to do? I don't see any hands up. How many people find that really not helpful when you're struggling and someone tries to tell you what to do? One of the things that I was taught by a friend of mine who found my response to things particularly annoying, you gotta be educatable, is to say, what do you need? Do you need me to listen? Do you want my opinion? Do you need feedback? Do you want to know what I would do in a situation? or do you just need me to sit and hear you? And to the degree that we're going to offer what we might do, it's important to say, here's what I might do, which is completely different from what somebody else might do. And to be unattached to what they do with whatever it is you offer. But to start with, what does the situation call for? What do you need? It could be as simple as something like, that sounds really difficult. I met a guy who did some very rudimentary peer counseling training in the military. And one of the things he learned is when someone says something, he would repeat that back. Guy says, I'm having trouble with this person I live with, and just repeat back, oh, you're having trouble with this person you live with. It's not complicated, not problem solving. Just compassionate, mindful presence is often the most helpful and compassionate thing we can offer to people. And I invite you to apply all of this to yourself when you're struggling, because we all struggle from time to time. Not to judge yourself, to be able to reflect on what your needs are, to be able to offer yourself the same empathy and compassion that you would offer anybody else you'll ever care about. To ask yourself, what do I need right now? So, active listening is the most basic act of compassion, and it is the most basic act of empathy. And I invite you to be kind and gentle with yourselves and to bring that out to the people around you. Thank you for your kind attention. Anybody have any comments, questions? Active, passive, compassionate, or otherwise? Alrighty then. Greg, it's good to see you. I missed you the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the reminder of this. With some village I also follow, they have this deep listening where, we just to listen and not to even think of what the other person is feeling. Not saying, but not responding, not reacting to what they are saying and immediately jump into, oh, this is what I know, this is what I. Just listen, but because sometimes they just want to be listened to. Nobody listens to them. They just want to say it and just breathe. And we can just breathe through it without even saying anything, and that's good enough already for us. So thank you for that, Fernando.
Just leaning into whatever it is we're hearing is enough. One of the dilemmas, one of the mistakes, I don't know if it's a mistake, anyway, one of the common problems with hearing and listening is people often listen and they're waiting for an opportunity to respond. They have a great thing that came to their mind to say, and then they still like turning that over while the other person is still talking, so they're missing what's going on. And by the time they have an opportunity to say something, that moment is past anyway, and we weren't really listening. Or we say something out of context. We're not listening to respond. We're listening to receive, to bear witness, to offer a space. Sometimes words are necessary, sometimes not. Sometimes words are helpful, sometimes not. Just to hold an open space with an open heart is enough.
Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name's I'm Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for that reminder. That is something that I definitely need to practice a little more with the little ones. Um, with children, it seems to be that I'm very quick to offer them some advice as to what they need to do, how they need to handle issues at school, bullying, and so forth. But I will definitely make it my practice to now just do some kind, loving, active listening and to ask the question, what do you need? I know they're going to look at me a little weird, but when I ask that question, but yes, thank you so much, Ken, for the reminder.
Thank you. The thing about the little ones, um, well, first off, they might act a little weird, look at you a little weird. Anytime we shift the paradigm, people respond that by thinking something strange is going on. Right? Um, Kids that age, the last part of the brain to be developed is the frontal cortex. It's where we absorb and process and make decisions about information. So if a kid is amped up and we're trying to tell them something, they're not receiving it. A lot of adults aren't receiving it. Right? And then we're confused the next day or two when they go off and it's like we never said anything. Because when people are amped up, they don't take in information. And when children are amped up, they really don't take in information because that part of the brain isn't even here yet. That part of the brain isn't fully developed until around the age of 24. And for some of us, maybe not ever, myself included. So thank you for that observation. Communicating with kids is an art. It's a whole other ball game. And good on you.
Yes, I definitely agree with it. It's a challenge to communicate with kids, and Joyce is right. It's hard not to want to give them advice. The other challenge I have is communicating with my mother-in-law and other people who speak Farsi. So I've learned Farsi, but I have the intermediate understanding. So when they're speaking, most of the time I'm translating in my head what they're saying, trying to figure out and decipher what they're saying. And then I usually will end up not fully understanding everything. So I'll repeat back some of it like you said, but then I'll be like, what do you mean? But then I've learned when they're emotional, when they're very sad about something, they're telling me about the death of a friend or angry or upset about something, it's actually better just to say, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I hear you, even if I don't fully understand you. I sense that you're in pain, and it's better just to listen to the pain, and not even try to translate at that point. It took me a long time to figure that out, but sometimes it's better just to listen to the emotion rather than the words and respond to that.
Thank you. As often as not, people just need to feel heard and seen. Because I've worked, I trained as a therapist in communities where there are various language barriers. And just the value of, I see you and I see how hard that is. You might be the only person who says that to them. You might be the only person who they encounter in a painful situation that isn't trying to tell them what to do with it. It's a huge and tremendous gift just to be able to, oh, I see you. I've told this story in here several times about the homeless guy in the coffee shop in Santa Cruz, California. And he was getting very agitated. I don't think he had the money for coffee, and they didn't want to give him coffee. And he's going up here, and they're going up here, and everybody's agitating, right? And first I got really triggered by that, and I wanted to turn to the guy and say, hey, But luckily, I had enough presence not to do that. And I looked at him and said, "Hey, man, having a rough day." And I kind of snapped him out of it a little bit. A, because he didn't expect that. Because I think he was used to being scolded. And I think he felt heard. And everybody took a breath. So especially, children who are amped up. I see you. There's just tremendous value in that. And the language thing, it's okay to say, I'm sorry, but I'm not understanding what you're saying, but I see you and I understand that's really painful. That's the game. And even if you do understand what they're saying, that's often the game right there. The compassion of just being present. I mean, really present for someone. How often do we encounter somebody who's like really, really present? It's a gift. Compassionate presence. Anything else? Anyone else? It's wonderful to see you all this morning. Joyce, welcome. I hope to see you again. And I will be here next week. Be well, y'all.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Be well.
Be well.